Hilchos Avos Hatumos Perek Shmoina Asar. The laws of the remaining primary sources of impurity, chapter 18, another chapter about doubts. Doubts of impurity. What's the basic law of doubts of impurity? Safek Tuma B'Rshus Harabim Tahar. Any doubt in a public domain, pure. Private domain, impure. The question is, what happens if you have a double doubt or a multiple layered doubt? The Rambam says it makes no difference. Halacha Aleph, Kol Sha'ata Yochel Rabbis. Sveikos usveik sveikos. No matter how much you can increase the levels of doubt, doubts and doubts upon doubts, B'Rshus Harabim Tahar, B'Rshus HaYachid Tameh. It doesn't matter how many layers of doubt there is. If you're in the public domain, you're pure. If you're in the private domain, you're impure. Give me an example, says the Rambam. Keitzat. How do we see where there's the same rule even in multiple cases of doubt? So we're going to use this picture here. Nichnas lemavoy v'hatuma b'chatzer. Let's go back to the laws of Shabbat. The way they used to set up the homes in those days, right? There was one big mavoy, one big lane. The lane used to open up into multiple courtyards. Each courtyard had multiple homes. I just picked one home, but really, there's a chatzer with a bunch of homes. So a person goes into a mavoy. The mavoy would be out here, let's say. You know, here. Okay, here's the entrance to this courtyard. So maybe he's over here. All right? He's out in the mavoy. And we know that there's a source of impurity in the chatzer. Somewhere in the courtyard, there's a source of impurity. Safek nichnas lechatzer, safek le nichnas. You're in doubt whether you went into the chatzer or not. So in this case, it's pretty hard to have a doubt because you would have to cross this whole area to get into the courtyard. But let's just say it was an easy door, and you don't know, did you step in or you didn't step in? Let's go even further. Tuma babayis. The source of impurity, it wasn't even in the chatzer, it was actually in the home. Safek nichnas labayis, safek le nichnas. Where now you're in doubt, did you go into the home or you didn't go into the home? As the commentaries explain, this is a bit of a harder doubt. How could you forget if you went into the home or not? If you're out in the street, you'd have to cross two thresholds. You have to go into the chatzer and into the home. Okay? So it's pretty hard to forget that. But nevertheless, there could be a doubt. You were super distracted on the phone, something happened, and you don't remember. You're in doubt, did I go into the home, did I not go in? Okay, that's the first layer of doubt. First layer of doubt is, did I get in, did I not get in? Whether it was in the chatzer or in the home. Let's just go with the case of the home. The Rambam gives us another layer of doubt here. Second layer, Safek Hoysasham Be'ez Shenichnas, Safek Shalei Hoysasham. Let's even, I skipped a few words here. Va'afilu Nichnas, even if you went in. Let's assume you went in. Let's assume you for sure went into the place where there was impurity. Safek Hoysasham Be'ez Shenichnas, Safek Le Hoysasham. But you're still in doubt. Was the source of impurity there when I came in or not? Yeah, there was a dead mouse at 10 a.m., but maybe I came in at 12 p.m. And maybe by that time, there was no impurity. So even if I went into the house, I might still be pure. That's second layer of doubt. Let's go even assume that it's the worst case scenario. You went in and the tumor was there. Okay, but how big was the mouse? Safek yeshba kashir, safek sheinba. Third layer of doubt. Is the mouse the proper size? Lentil size, right, for the sherets. So even if you went in, and even if it was there, maybe it wasn't the right size. But let's assume that it was. Fourth layer of doubt. V'im taimar yeshba, even if you said that there was the proper amount, safek shehi tuma, safek she'ena tuma. You know, I'm saying it's a mouse the whole time. But maybe it was a frog. Maybe it wasn't even a source of impurity. Don't know. Let's go even further. Va'afilu hi tuma. Even if it is for sure a mouse. Safek naga, safek le naga. Now I'm in doubt, did I even touch it or not? So you have to assume 5 or 6 negative things here. That he went in, that it was there, that it was the proper amount, that it was a source of impurity, and that he touched it. 5 question marks over here are hanging in the balance, and nevertheless, says the Rambam, if this issue happened in a home, sveikay tameh, the doubt is going to make you impure. Because for these purposes, the lane outside of the chatzer and everything else associated with it is considered to be a private domain. This is called a doubt which developed in a private domain. You're impure. Halacha beis, another doubt. Tishat tzfardim v'sheretz echad b'shus hayachid. You're in a private domain, and there are 9 frogs which are not impure, only 1 mouse. So the chances of you becoming impure are 10%. You touched one of them, you don't know which one you touched. Since it's in Reshus Hayachit, we go and we follow the rule that you're going to be impure. Even though we've seen in the past that sometimes you follow the majority. And the majority here would make you actually pure. But over here, this is called kavua. Kavua means the doubt is stationary. Every one of these could have been the mouse, could have been the frog. And when there's a stationary question, we say mechza al mechza, it's equal 50-50, and we treat you in doubt that you're impure. Tisha shratzim, utzvardeya echad. Let's go the opposite case. And to bring out the extreme, we'll say it's b'shus harabim. It's 9 mice and 1 frog in the public domain. Public domain is where we go leniently. We go so leniently here, v'naga be'echad mehan sveikaitar. You touch one of these. You don't know which one you touched. Statistically speaking, what did you touch? The mouse, which makes you impure for sure. But since you're in doubt, maybe you touched a frog. Even though it's a minuscule chance, we're going to rule that you're going to be pure. For the same reason, by the way, kavua in the opposite way. There's a stationary element of purity here. And therefore, that's enough to make you pure. Zehaklal, this is the rule. This is the rule that applies across the board, no matter how many doubts there are. Kol safik b'shus harabim toher ad sheyemar nitmesi bevadai. Any doubt that develops in the public domain, you're pure until you know for sure that you're impure. V'chol safik b'shus hayachid tamei ad sheyemar vadai shalei nitmesi. And if you're in doubt in the private domain, you're always going to be impure unless you say for sure, I know for sure that I didn't become impure. In other words, I don't care how far the doubts develop, that's the guiding light. Lefikach, therefore, atzmais hames, the etzem nevela b'shus harabim. Let's say you had 2 bones sitting in the public domain. Bones of a corpse, human corpse, which the bones themselves transmit impurity, and bones of a carcass, dead cow, which doesn't transmit impurity. For a nevela to make you impure, you have to have flesh, not just a bone.
But bone with what?
No, bone if it's with flesh and it's a limb, then it's metame. But here it's on its own.
Outside, inside.
Just the bone. Just the bone. So you have one bone which is impure, one bone which is pure, sitting in the public domain, and you don't know which one you touched. Or you have 2 pieces of earth from pure land somewhere in Israel, and earth from a Beis HaPras, that's the field where you plowed a grave, or from the diaspora. Same thing again. You touched or caused one of them to move, you don't know which one it was. Another case, Kizayis min ameis or Kizayis min anevela. Forget the bones, you have actual flesh. Flesh from a dead body, flesh from a dead animal. Dead body has the tumah of oihel. Even if you form a covering over it, it makes you impure. Not so by nevela, you have to touch it. You formed an oil over one of them, you don't know which one. Shnei shvilin, another case, which we'll have tomorrow at length, the law of the two roads. There are 2 roads. One is echad tameh ve'echad tar. One leads to a place where you're going to for sure cross over impurity. The other one is pure. The halach or halach be'echad mehem ve'nedu be'ez halach. You walk down one of them. You don't know which one. Or you touched a person on the road, where it's like a Reshus Harabim. Commentaries explain. You don't know. Right? Today this would be almost impossible to keep track of because there's so many people that we don't know. Those days you're in the shtetl, you pretty much knew everybody. But here you're walking down the road, you bump into a guy. Your clothes rub against his clothes. You don't know, is he pure or impure? What do you do now? There were 2 people where you knew. One was for sure impure, one was for sure pure. You touch one of them, you don't know which one you touched. So, this is what? 5, 6, 7 cases of doubts. In all these cases, since they developed in Reshus Harabim, they are all pure. Because again, we don't care how far the doubts go. If it's in Reshus Harabim, it's pure. Halacha Gimel, Hamoitze Meis, Mushkav L'Rachbei Shal Derech. So we have a person, he walked down a path. This path, later they discover, there's a corpse lying across the path. Across the entire path, edge to edge. So you couldn't have missed it. you for sure became impure.
So what, you stepped over it?
You clearly stepped over it. There's
Even
no way.
What happens if you didn't step over it? No matter where
No,
you are.
you were on the path. Yeah, you
couldn't go
you know
in the field and
you
around.
couldn't go around. No, you were on the path. So now it depends. Im haya shalem, v'humina kotze la kotze. The classic case would be like if it snowed, right? So I'm saying if it snowed, right, and then you couldn't see, so you walked down the path and the snow melted. No, this thing is snow melted, and then you see there's a corpse there. So they call you back. They go, hey, you walked on this path. You're impure, but you have to check. Only in a certain case. If the corpse is still whole, it's intact. It's from edge to edge. There's no way you missed it. You're mamish impure.
Right.
You can't eat truma. There's a presumption that you touched it. But if there was a place to walk, the path was a little bit wider than the corpse. Or it was a skeleton that was broken and dismembered. Where tragically it's possible that you walked through the pieces and you didn't actually walk over the corpse. Now it's a doubt. In a doubt, you could be lenient and say you're pure. If there was a grave, not just a corpse, then it doesn't matter. The structure of the grave itself is considered to be one unit. It puts it all together. And if you walked over that grave, you're impure no matter if you were aligned with the pieces of the skeleton or not. It doesn't make a difference. This is not a doubt. Like any other doubt, here there's a chazaka. It's pretty much certain that you created an oil over the grave, so you are impure. You find a rodent in a lane, in an open alleyway. This is called the Rishus HaYachid, we said before. Any doubts are going to be impure. The question now is, how long ago was this mouse here? How far back are we going? So the Rambam says, Mitami lemafreya, it makes everything in that lane impure retroactively, ad ha'es sheyoymar, until somebody can say with confidence, Badakti es hamavay hazeh b'yom pleni v'lo haya b'sharetz. I checked this place on this day, and there was no rodent. Let's say he's the janitor. Okay, so he knows every Tuesday at 5 p.m. he cleans out the place. It's like, you know what? By last Tuesday there was no mouse over here. So then you would push it back till last Tuesday, and that's it. Afilu kibdai v'lei b'dakai, but even if he swept the place, but he didn't actively check it, it will continue to be mitame even before the sweeping, because you can't say with confidence, you didn't check. When do we say this? If you found it to be dry, the sheretz. But if it's still moist, there's no way it's here for too long. We can only push it back as far as we know, scientifically, that it could have died and stayed this moist, this fresh. How long can a mouse stay fresh? 1 day, 2 days. At that point, anything before that is good. It's more than that? Okay, 3 days, 4 days, whatever it is. The point is,
More than a week even.
it could stay moist, like geschmack. Okay, I'm not the expert in mice stuff, but yeah. Okay, so whatever it is, 3, 4 days, a week, 2 weeks. Point is, here you don't have to come onto a person to give testimony. Since it's fresh, you can determine how old it is. Halacha hey, shnei rukin b'rishus hayachid. So we recall that saliva, spit from certain people is considered to be a primary source of impurity, or at least a rishon l'tumah, at least a first degree. So you have 2 piles of saliva. You found them in a private domain. Echad tar ve'echad min harukin hanimtzayin. One is for sure pure, and one of them is just a randomly discovered saliva, which we know the rule, shegazru alei and tuma kamesh bi'arnu. What do we see in chapter 13? That any spit that you just find is considered by default to be impure. You touched or caused one of them to move, you don't know which one it is. It's a doubt. Is it the pure one, or it's the one the rabbis declared impure? So if a person touched this saliva and then touched truma, we're going to put it into a doubtful toilin. We're going to hang it in the balance. Because over here, we're not going to say for sure. Here it's a double doubt. Double doubt, safek batahir naga, safek banimtza. You don't know which saliva you touched. V'im taimer banimtza, even if you touch the one that's just random, that you don't know what it is, but That's exactly it. You don't know what it is. Safek shotame, safek shotar. It could be that it's pure, it could be that it's impure. The rabbis made it considered impure, but it's a sveka now. Double doubt. You're more lenient. At least to the point that you don't burn truma over it. Hayu shnei harukin b'shus harab. What if both salivas were not in the private domain? They were in the public domain. If they're dry, and sitting there, you touch one of them, you don't know what it is, you're pure out of doubt. And if you carry one of them, at least will be more strict and make truma in the balance. Once you picked it up, it's no longer in the public domain. So you can't call it a doubt in the public domain. It's in the private domain. It's on your person. Similarly, if one of the salivas was moist and it attached itself to your clothing when you walked by it or touched it, if a person then touches it, and then touches truma, the truma will be toilin. It will be questionable status. At this point, it's attached to your clothes. It's not placed in the public domain, which would make it pure. It's on your clothing, which is like a private domain, which is impure. It says that Rambam Farbiano, we already explained. If you know that what you're touching is discovered saliva, it's not maybe pure, maybe impure. It's just one of those discovered ones. Where you caused it to move, where you carried it, any place. We will burn truma on it if you then touch truma. Like a beis hapras, but like any other rabbinic imposition of impurity, where when you're definite that you touch them, will burn truma. If you're indefinite, if you touch it to begin with, then not. But if you for sure touch them, then you're going to be impure. A person is sitting in public domain. Like in the olden days, they used to wear these cloaks that would kind of spread out onto the floor. Comes a person and steps on his clothes. My mistake, he walked on this part that's sticking out. Or he spat. And the commentaries say it means this person spat, and somebody that's walking touched the saliva. So the Rambam says, the question is, to what point did you become impure here? Al haroik. Yes, of course. That's definitely. Saliva has to be moist in order to be metame. Yes, that's true. Al haroik serfenes truma. For the saliva, you burn truma. It's a higher level of impurity. Ba'al begadav hilchen achar. Even for clothing, well, you don't know who this guy is. Is he pure or impure? Follow the majority. Imreva ir tmein begadav midras. If most of the city members are impure, then his clothes are also considered to be impure. Imreva ir tahirim tahar. If most of the people are pure, then you're also pure for stepping on his clothes. Halacha zayin misha avad leikli umitzay b'shusayachit. A person lost a utensil which could become impure. It's that kind of utensil. He finds it in a private domain. He has to worry for everything. He has to worry that maybe a zav touched it, maybe a corpse touched it. The whole thing is impure. Besides for being impure, it has to also be like sprinkled upon with para aduma water. It's fully impure. But if he lost it in the public domain, and he finds it in the public domain, where all that there is a doubt, which is probably going to be pure. If he lost and found it on the same day, he's good. Lost it by day, found by night. Lost by night, found by day. Where he lost it today and found it tomorrow. Now, once a night passes, somebody might have stepped on it without realizing. You don't know what happened. Yeah, so there's a lot of possibilities. And therefore, you have to assume that even though typically in a public domain the law is safek tahor, but not so here. This is a very common, or more like a chazaka, that it could have become impure. Zeh haklal. This is the rule. Kol she'avad alav halayla oy miktsasai tamei. If night or part of the night passed on an unsupervised utensil, even in the public domain, it's impure. Halacha ches. Hiniach kli eshchacher b'shus harabim. You placed a utensil. You didn't lose it. You placed it there, or you forgot it in Rishus Harabim. Even if the night passed, you are the keli is pure. You don't have to worry about it. Again, you didn't lose it. You placed it there or you forgot it there in a private domain. While we're going to make it impure from a zav, we're going to make it pure from corpse, impurity. Why? Why aren't they strict when it comes to forgetting or leaving there? Like when you lost it. Not because the logic is different. Logic is the same. Who cares if you left it there or you lost it there? It's there overnight. So whatever happened to the lost one should have happened to the left one. But we have a rule that the sages only impose decrees in common cases. Commonly speaking, people lose stuff. They don't just leave stuff or forget stuff. If they did, we're lenient with them. A person loses a utensil and finds it in his friend's house. But his friend is a good guy, scrupulous guy, keeps the laws of impurity. It can be considered pure, it's considered guarded, nobody that's impure hangs out over there, so you're good. Somebody spreads out utensils, meaning clothes here, in the public domain. Okay, a public clothesline, let's just say. They're pure even if they stayed overnight, because people do not step on clothes that are there to dry. Private domain, impure. Maybe impure people touch them overnight. If he was watching them, of course they're pure. And what if they fell and he went to get them? Now they're impure. When he walks to go get them, he loses sight of them. Same thing, a person lost his utensils in a private domain. And we said that it becomes tamei at all levels, midras and tamei meis. Even if he finds them the same day, harehim midras utmei meis k'mesher b'yarnu, they're impure as we explained. The stringency applies across the board, doesn't matter the circumstance. Halacha Yud Aleph, shoita achas ba'ir einachris. One unstable woman in the city, one non-Jewish woman in the city, ruins the whole thing. All saliva in the city is presumed to be impure everywhere and all times. Because these are people that don't care to supervise where their saliva goes. A guy, she doesn't keep the laws, and a mentally unstable person, she's in her own world. A person, same scenario as before, let's just use this guy, sitting on the road, and a woman comes and steps on his clothes. Now, every woman you have to know, is she a nida, is she on her period or not? She could be impure. Or she's sitting on a boat with him, but like a small boat, where the weight is always changed by when people walk around and move. If the woman knows who this guy is, that he eats truma, he's careful to eat truma in purity, so even if she steps on his clothes, he can assume that it's pure, because she wouldn't do it if she wasn't pure. If she doesn't know, he has to ask her. In other words, he has to presume maybe she's impure. And this could have caused him an impurity. Yud Gimel. Misha Yashar Misha Sayach. Huh? This was, I know it sounds offensive, but you have to know. It's like if you're diabetic, you have to ask. Hey, or if you're allergic. They weren't so woke, exactly. They're very inclusive. Are you impure? Yes, I am.
It would be almost like a...
No, they were actually just straight up. Yeah, exactly. It was.
Okay, I keep the laws.
I keep the laws, and what's your situation? Exactly. I love that.
Different context.
A whole different context. Halacha Yud Gimel Misha Yashan Misha Sarabim Va'amat. A person fell asleep in the public domain, and then he wakes up. Kelev Tehaydim. He can assume that his clothes are pure. If he didn't see anybody step on them, you're good. Halacha Yud Dalid Naga Misha Sarabim Be'echad Balayla. A person is walking through the public domain, and he bumps into somebody. Doesn't know if he's alive or dead. That was the kind of circumstances they're dealing with in those days. Okay, not just you don't know if he's homeless or not. You don't know if he's alive or dead.
Bump into a dead body. They're lying on the floor.
They're there. People, this is common occurrence, I guess. In the morning you wake up, he's dead. You have to consider yourself to be impure, because all impurity goes by the time you found it. When you found it was dead, that means when you bumped into it, it's also dead. But if you saw him alive by night, the morning he was dead, and in the middle you touched the body, now it's a doubt in the public domain, and you're actually pure. All right, a little heavy. Halacha tezvav hamisukan B'shus hayachid. A person is endangered. That means he's like, on the way out. In the private domain. V'nis alef, and he fainted. V'ein yodua im adayin uchai. They didn't know if he's still alive. V'yitzi'u l'shus harabim. They took him outside to the public domain. V'chazru v'yichnisuhu l'shus hayachid. And took him back in. Maybe for some privacy. They thought he was still alive. Kishu b'shus hayachid tzvekei tameh. Ukishu b'shus harabim tzvekei tar. So, since it's a doubt, you go off to the place. Funny enough, same body. When he's inside, any doubts associated with him are impure. When he's outside, any doubts are pure, because it's all about where he is. Maisa be'echad, there was even a story with somebody, says the Rambam. Shahaya Mesukan, he was, again, on the way out. V'hilichu me'ir li'ir b'mita. And they were carrying him from city to city on a stretcher. I guess to take him to a doctor, to get some treatment. V'hayu kites tachtav, kites mischalfes tachtav. And there was changing of the guards. There was, different volunteers that were carrying him and constantly changing. At the end, they found him dead. So they were rushing him on a stretcher to get some treatment, and then they keep on changing. They find him to be dead. What did the rabbi say? The rabbi said only the last group is impure. Everybody else, it's safek b'shus harabim, and they're pure. What about the law of kol hatumos kishas mitziyasan? You go off the time of discovery. But, like in the last case, when you see the guy alive in the evening, that gives you a chazakah. So here too, they saw him first alive. Now he's dead. The last group gets to suffer the consequence. Impure guy is talking with his friend near a pit of wine. So this is very important liquid. You can't afford to lose this. The nitzat tzinoida mipiv, and some saliva came out of his mouth. Safek higia laber, safek lehigia. You don't know, did it reach the wine in the pit? And the whole thing is impure now or not? Im hayaber shel shemen, if it's oil pit. Okay, I said wine, that's the next example. First oil. If it's an oil pit, svekei tameh b'shus hayachid. If it's in a private domain, the doubt makes you impure. Because oil is slippery, say the commentaries, and maybe even if your spit touched the rim or the edge of the pit, but the slipperiness got it into the pit, and they made the whole thing impure. But if it's in Rishus Harabim, then it's pure. It's only a doubt. Doubt in Rishus Harabim is pure. If it was a wine pit, you always can presume it to be pure, even in the private domain. Because with wine, it's not slippery. It will catch. Even if it slipped out of your mouth, the pit will, the rim of the pit will catch the saliva, will not go into the wine, stay protected, so it's always pure.